My name is Caleb Webster Alt. This is for Introduction Ammunition and Basic Ballistics, Week 8 assignment. The date is 7/31/2024. So for part 1, I'm going to show you my scale copy drawings of all of my dummy cartridges as well as the measurements of those cartridges. So to begin, this was actually the cartridge I chose to disassemble for my last week's assignment. And I did all of the homework / measurements on a different separate piece of paper, so I will be showing you the front page first. So this shows you the measurements of the cartridge, the scale copy drawing, and it even includes the projectile length because we were included a digital dial caliper in the mail this week. So I got to get that measurement for you guys as well. So let's flip this to the back, and as you can see, this is blank. But on the other pages, I'm going to show you my actual work. So go on to those. This is 3030 Winchester, and this is the scale copy drawing of that, and it also has all of the diameters on there. But you also have, in which corner? You also have the page number where you can find the information for 3030 Winchester on the Cartridges of the World textbook. So just a little feature I added. I also went in and added another feature from the Cartridges of the World textbook just to kind of help and demonstrate to the camera as well for part 2, which will be coming up. But this is all my work showing how did I find those measurements and how I properly read a micrometer and how I got my answers. So that's the proof there for bullet diameter, neck diameter, shoulder diameter, base diameter, and rim diameter for the 3030 Winchester. And that's pretty much how all of these papers are going to be set up, as you will see in a second here. So to move on, this is 9mm, well, 9x19mm parabellum. In modern days, we just call this 9mm, pretty much. But these are the measurements for that, because this is a straight-walled cartridge. You do not see a shoulder diameter, which we will get to when we flip this. So as you can see, you just got bullet diameter, neck diameter, base diameter, and rim diameter. Again, showing all my work and where I got those answers from. If we move on to 556. And those are all the measurements for that. And we flip it. And that is all my work. Bullet diameter, neck diameter, shoulder diameter, base diameter, and rim diameter, all there. And then for the last one, this is 38 special, and this is also going to be the one we demonstrate in the textbook. So as you can see, all the measurements are there. We will then flip. I'll show my work. Bullet diameter, neck diameter, base diameter, and rim diameter, all there. Answers are circled for this one, as you can see. So, to go over all this, for part 2, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Cartridges of the World textbook to locate a specific caliber by measurement. And the caliber we are going to choose and talk about is a 38 special. So this is a 38 special. We are going to simply use a dial caliper so I can show the camera the actual measurement digitally. So I will turn that on. I will zero it. I will then begin to measure the diameter. Oh. If I can get a good measurement. This is not going to be perfect, but it is coming up with 3.57, or yeah, it is perfect. 3.57, and that is actually the exact diameter that you will be looking for the bullet diameter. But to describe how the Cartridges of the World textbook functions and how you can utilize it is, as I described, I put these rows in order just like they are in the Cartridges of the World textbook. So if you were going to be looking at the Cartridges of the World textbook and you were going to be looking at the measurements in a row, they would go in this order: bullet diameter, neck diameter, base diameter, rim diameter. Of course, because this is a straight walled cartridge, in between we are missing things like shoulder diameter and you know, pretty much just that, but you know, just to keep it basic so we can explain it. So for the first part, as you can see, we measured the bullet diameter, and the bullet diameter is 357. So if that, pretend this is the book, that is correct. So then we would just move on to the neck diameter. You would measure the neck diameter. If that would be correct, well, then that's even more proof. You're going to go on to the next column. You're going to continue measuring all the measurements on the cartridge case. And pretty much once you get to the end of the rim diameter, it'll then get to a page number, which I put on the front here, which is page 457. And if you go to page 457 in the textbook, it's going to pull up all of this information and more. So that's basically how to use the cartridge of the world textbook. If you go into the, I think it's called the glossary, I'm not sure, but you go in there and it's just like bunches of measurements for different types of cartridges, and you can literally just find the cartridge caliber by the measurements of the cartridge case and projectile. That simple, that easy. So moving on to part 3, I'm going to provide a brief history of the cartridge that were disassembled using the cartridges of the world textbook, and explain why resources like this textbook are useful to everyday gunsmiths. So to begin, the only cartridge I took apart was the 7mm Remington Magnum. So here's that, and that is also why I only got the bullet diameter of this, or the bullet length of this, because we also got this, so I got to measure this for you guys as well on that piece of paper. I'm going to turn this off, set this aside. So I'm going to go on the Cartridges of the World textbook here on my computer, and I'm going to read the historical notes about the 7mm Remington Magnum. Just give you some brief history about it. So the 7mm Remington Magnum was introduced by Remington in 1962. The 7mm Remington Magnum was brought out at the same time as the improved bolt action 700 series rifles, which replaced the earlier models 721, 722, and 725. Most other manufacturers have since added this popular cartridge to their lines. It took American firearms manufacturers nearly 40 years to realize that the 275 Holland & Holland, made long ago by Western Cartridge Co., is a first-rate, medium-game, long-range cartridge. The long line of 7mm Wildcats is much like the old 275 H&H, which came out in 1912. For a long time, Remington chose to ignore the classic 7mm bullet, 160-grain Spitzer, in its 7mm Magnum loads, but that weight now appears in the hypersonic bonded line 28979. So, just to go over everything, for part 1 we went over the scale drawings and the measurements as well. For part 2 I demonstrated how to use a textbook, and we also demonstrated a little bit how to go about measuring something, especially with a measurement tool like a dial caliper. And I went over how the textbook is set up and how to utilize it and how to use it and how to locate a caliber. For part 3, I provided some history on the 7mm Remington Magnum, and that is about it. So for the second part of part 3, I want to go over why this textbook would be useful for everyday gunsmiths. So sometimes I would assume, throughout my time being a gunsmith, I will experience something, and a lot of other people, students in this class, will experience something along the lines of a customer bringing them a vintage firearm, maybe an old war relic, something that is not, like made anymore, like a caliber that's discontinued. And you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, I've never seen that, never heard about that, and you're going to have to use something like this source, and you're going to have to use measurement tools like micrometers and dial calipers. You're going to have to take the time and do the math and measure the certain parts on the projectile itself as well as the casing to figure out sometimes which caliber you're working with. That's why books like this are so important. I mean, it's a good tool, and people should learn how to utilize something like this. So yeah, that is it. I think we hit all of the key points here. We're just at 9 minutes and 20 seconds, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you very much.